In this Redfall review video, I'm going to talk about my impressions playing through the game. I just finished it up a couple of days ago. I'll give you guys an overview of how the game plays, what I like about the game, what I don't like about the game, as well as how the game plays on PC and Xbox. I played on both platforms, so I'll kind of give you guys a synopsis of how it runs on both of those systems. So first, let's talk a little bit about what Redfall is. It is a semi-story-driven shooter where players are kind of thrust into two open world maps, and they're kind of exploring the story of the game, trying to figure out what's going on with the town of Redfall, and, you know, gaining loot and all this stuff while they're playing through the game. It's clearly meant to be played multiplayer, as there are 4 unique characters, and each character has their own abilities. I do want to mention too as well that this game is crossplay, meaning that you can play between Xbox and PC, or between Steam and Epic. So if you want to play with your friends, it doesn't matter what platform they're playing on, you can play with them. Mechanically, players are going to be going from their home base, and they're going to be going out and doing missions and coming back, and going out and doing missions and coming back, not unlike Dead Island or something like that, except with vampires instead of zombies, and you'll gain experience from completing quests and defeating monsters, which will result in skill points and increase in health, and obviously your weapon level will increase, or the level of weapons that you find will increase, again, not unlike Dead Island, so that you're getting stronger and stronger weapons. Players can spend their skill points however they want in their character's unique skill tree with whatever character they picked, and as soon as they get a certain point in the game, I think it's level 10 or so, you'll be able to respec freely, so if you don't like the way your build is, you can change it up, which is great. And the weapon system is not unlike other, games like Dead Island, where it's got weapons have random bonuses on them, random qualities, common, uncommon, rare, legendary, sort of a thing. Purple, green, blue, white, gold, the standard that you've seen a million times before. This game has that. There are no armor or anything like that. It's just weapons, and players will get these from defeating monsters and completing quests, etc. On top of this, there are a couple special skill slots for like blood that you can slot from defeating powerful vampires that kind of gives you passive abilities, like maybe increases your healing, increases your health, increases your damage reduction. And then from defeating like the very, very powerful vampire lords of the game, or vampire gods, you will gain like legendary items that you can equip that further change the way you play, although these are very few and far between. The general concept of this game is very, very uninspired. We've played this game so many different times, and honestly, it's kind of disappointing that it's so generic in the terms of the way the game's set up. You just go out and do these missions in a big open world map, come back, and the missions are not interesting, they're not anything complicated. It's just go kill one of these, or go find a couple of these, go hit a switch a couple times and come back. And you feel like you've played this game a lot of times. But I will say, though, that even though it's very uninspired, I actually really enjoyed it anyway. Like, I found myself wanting to play. So I do feel like they did a good job, even though it kind of pulls from a million other games and it's not really like some original concept. I think what made it more interesting for me, other than maybe something like Dying Light or Dead Island, was just this sort of a cult feel that the game has. It's almost Lovecraftian to a little degree. I wouldn't say much, but just a little bit. There's all these kind of like things going on in the world that you're like, what's that? And it's absolutely bizarre when you look at certain events that are happening in the world, and it makes you kind of want to go and explore and see what's going on. That, coupled with the art style of the game, it's not like super realistic. It kind of has a little bit of a fantasy element to it. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it kind of added to that occult feeling of the game, which I really liked. That said, though, like, it's just not well executed. They could have done so much more with this concept, but it seems like they just settled for less, frankly. I mean, there's so much copy-paste in the way the missions are done. From the first map of the game to the second map of the game, same sort of missions are reused over and over, and there isn't a huge variety at all. The storytelling is very poor, the characters themselves are uninteresting. So they had a great idea, but I feel like they just didn't execute it as well as they could have. But two things that really annoyed me about this game: one, you can't pause while playing, so if you're like trying to change weapons mid-fight, you just keep getting attacked, or if you like AFK for a second to go to the bathroom and an enemy wanders by and kills you, it's kind of annoying. And the other thing is, the game saves, if you quit out, like only after you complete a mission, really. So, like if you get halfway through a mission, maybe it's a 30-minute long mission, maybe it's a main one, and you have to go do something like pick up your kid from work, or maybe you have to go somewhere and you have to quit, then, you come back and you lost 15 minutes worth of progress. And it's only 15 minutes granted you. But if this happens to you 4 or 5 times through your playthrough, that's like an hour or 2 hours can add up real quick. The amount of time you lost, and it can be frustrating. Also, you're not where you left off. You're trying to figure out what you need to do still. That can be really annoying. So moving along, we'll talk about the PC performance, then I'll get into Xbox. So PC has absolutely terrible performance. This should not be shocking to anyone, as we just came from Jedi Survivor that had similar problems. I would say Redfall's problems are not as bad as Jedi Survivor's. As a whole, I would say I was getting better performance generally than I was with Jedi Survivor. but I still had absolutely problems with FPS drops constantly, particularly in the second half of the game where it seemed like there were more enemies on the screen, and anytime there were more enemies on the screen, the FPS just went to hell. I played this game on PC on a Corsair One Pro i182. This system has an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti graphics card, and it has an i9 9920X processor. I was playing on 1440p settings pretty much the whole game on medium. This gave me about 50 to 60 FPS pretty much the whole game, except places where it would drop well below 30. In some places it would go over 80, so the performance was very spotty, not unlike Jedi Survivor, where sometimes it was running great in certain areas and then other times it would just drop and plummet and then it would come back up again. Same very similar issues that we were seeing in Jedi Survivor I was having with this game. And then again, when I got to the second half of the game, the second map, because there are 2 open world maps in this game, the performance was even worse. A lot of times I would be getting 30 to 40 FPS on these settings, and this is absolutely absurd. I have a stronger PC with a 3080 Ti that I can play on, and a 12900 processor that I could have gotten better performance on, but I feel like this is more indicative of a PC that players will play on, and even then maybe it's a little bit too high. So I wanted to play on this. It was still playable, I will say that, but particularly in the second half of the game, there are places where my FPS dropped to like 4 or 5 for like 5 to 10 seconds at a time. It was absolutely abysmal. So moving along to Xbox, I only played about an hour on Xbox just to test the performance, and if you didn't know, the game is capped at 30 FPS on Xbox Series X and S. There is no way to increase this. There's no like performance mode that sets it to 60 FPS. Supposedly this is coming in a later patch. So if you're playing on Xbox, you are literally locked at 30 FPS. Now I will say for 30 FPS, it did seem to play somewhat smoothly. I am not a huge fan of 30 FPS in my shooters. A lot of people aren't. They probably won't play this because of that. Until that, other patch comes. But I would say it doesn't play that terribly, although I do worry about it being bad in the second half of the game where the performance really hit for me. Like there were places, again, where my FPS tanked on PC, and I wonder if the Xbox will tank in those same spots or not. And just another point about Xbox as well. The shooting to me felt terrible on Xbox. Absolutely terrible. Not just because of the controller, but the settings for the way you can set your controller up to shoot were like they had almost no settings whatsoever, which just seems to me an egregious offense this day and age. If you're gonna make people play a shooter on console, give them lots of tools they can tinker with so they can get it to feel very good, or at least give them a default setup that feels good. This game had neither of those things, which made me really not want to play despite the 30 FPS. And the last thing I want to mention here is that this game is coming to Game Pass day 1, which means that if you have Game Pass on PC or Xbox, you get to play for free, essentially. Well, not free, but whatever the cost of Game Pass is for all the other games you're playing, you don't have to pay anything else to get it. So that is a major, major upside to this game, and I would say that if you have it on Game Pass, I would try it with some friends because it's definitely fun to play, and I think it'll be way more fun with people to play with. I didn't get to co-op during the review period, but I actually plan to co-op this game with people that I know, just because it seems like a fun game to co-op, but I would not pay money for this game. I would not recommend to you to go out and buy Game Pass to play this. I would simply say if you already have Game Pass, maybe check it out. If you have a beastly PC, you probably won't have nearly the performance issues that I had. Like if you have a 3080 Ti or 4090 or something like that, you probably won't see the performance issues as much. And to me, it was bearable, but not great. So I imagine on better systems, you'll probably be fine. And again, if you can tolerate 30 FPS on Xbox, maybe go check it out. But again, don't go get Game Pass to play this game. Don't do it. Just get it or check it out maybe if you have it and you have some friends to play with. Definitely don't spend any money on this game. Just to give you some idea, it took me about 13 hours to finish this game on the normal difficulty. I probably could have stretched that out to 15 hours if I explored more, maybe 16 hours. If you're playing on hard, you'll probably get somewhere around 20 hours because you can die quite often in this game. So that's the amount of game time you're looking at. You can continue to play on a higher difficulty after you beat the game, kind of start the campaign over with your character, but you'll have all your skills and all your equipment that you had from the previous playthrough. So there is some replayability there. And of course, if you're playing multiplayer and you want to keep playing with your friends, you can. I'm just unsure how many people will actually want to play a second playthrough after playing a first. Again, it's just unfortunate that performance issues continue to plague the gaming industry, particularly on PC. But also in this case on console, Xbox has problems as well. They clearly don't have a performance mode, which means that they can't even get anywhere close to 60 FPS. And that should be glaring and shocking to people. I think the most alarming thing to me is that this is an industry-wide problem at this point. It is not just one or two studios that are screwing the pooch here. It is literally a whole bunch of studios, big-name studios with big budgets and big rosters that continue to put out products that are not ready to go. Frankly, I don't understand the logic of these companies putting out these titles that they know they have performance issues. They have to know. They have PCs. They have playtesters telling them this. They put it out anyway, knowing this, and then what? Just hope for the best? They just hope, you know, reviewers will be lenient? They just hope that it'll slip through the cracks, that there's not Reddit, YouTube, Twitter, all these places people can communicate about these issues? I mean, thank God for Steam reviews, because you can go there and see that there is absolutely massive problem with these games. I just don't understand the logic. At what point will they go, you know what, if we don't fix this, it'll be worse for us than if we fix this? We as gamers have to make that the reality, or this is the product that we're going to continue to get. Anyway, if you know me, I try and stay out of this stuff as much as possible, but frankly, even I've had enough of what's going on. What do you guys think of these issues with PC? I know you guys just chimed in on Jedi Survivor. For those of you looking at Redfall, what do you guys think of Redfall so far? Let me know in the comments below.